How's it going, everyone? Maximilian here with a special segment on our week-long reality show Cross Assault that we'll be hosting every once in a while. And it's Ask Capcom, where you get to ask Capcom questions directly and get the official word from the source itself. I have a pretty important guest today. His name is Mr. Horsehead. And tell me, what's it like having the physique of a bodybuilder and the head of a horse? Whoa, whoa, whoa! It's Seth Killian, was Horsehead the whole time.
It was me. It was me the whole time.
Have been blown.
I regret nothing.
Regret nothing, especially being inside the horse head for more than 30 seconds.
I might regret that a little bit.
Seth, thank you very much. Oh my gosh.
I licked
There's
my hand.
Pieces of the horse head everywhere.
Yeah.
Don't put a horse head on, no matter what people tell you. It's not glamorous.
The swearing was worth it, though. I'll tell you, it was delightful.
So Seth, thank you very much for coming on. I know you guys are very busy with a bunch of games coming out right now. Like Asura's Wrath just came out like yesterday.
Just came out.
Street Fighter Cross Tekken comes out on the 6th. Resident Evil Revelations. It's amazing how much stuff is coming out in such a short time frame. But
some say amazing, others say poor planning.
I find it amazing because I like video games. But what we're going to be doing is just running through some questions from the stream. But before we get started, I had a couple of general concerns that I think might be good, just on a personal level myself, about Street Fighter Cross Tekken, the development.
I thought it was going to be relationship advice.
Oh,
that's not what I was told this segment was going to be about.
How do you deal with long-distance relationships?
Doesn't anyone want to talk to me about anything besides Street Fighter?
How do you make excellent beef stew? Please tell me.
You got the wrong guy. I'm sorry. You were actually going somewhere with that.
Where was I going? No. It was about some of the development of Street Fighter Cross Tekken. When it comes to a game like this, it's I technically call it the first in its series. It's a versus series game technically, but in the Tekken and Street Fighter universe, it's absolutely the first game. It's insane how big the roster is, especially for like the Vita version. We can't talk too much about that because there's been barely any details, but the console release of this game has a ton of characters. How did the roster for this game get so big?
Well, it basically just comes down to you've got, I mean, you start with the Street Fighter universe, and like even just picking which characters are going to go in a Street Fighter game, like pruning out some is already really difficult. You don't want to cut anybody. You want to have everybody in there.
Yeah.
And then you load in the Tekken universe, and you've got your Hayachi and your Nina and your Paul and your King and whatever.
Yeah.
You've got your sort of
so many.
Your Chun-Li and your Guile and your your Ryu kind of equivalents on the Tekken side. So guys you sort of can't cut.
Yeah.
And so once you start with basically the can't cut list, you're already at a pretty healthy roster, and then you go from there with characters that we personally are excited about, because like everyone wants to get their dig in because they're like, oh, this one's my favorite, or oh, we have to have a Bob versus Rufus match. So you start getting that kind of nonsense in there. So
the passion matches.
Yeah, so it's basically people that the team is excited about versus, not versus, but in addition to the characters that we think the fans are just expecting / demanding, plus our desire to sort of keep it a little bit unexpected.
Yeah.
Where it's not all by the numbers. There's a few surprises in there.
Yeah, like speaking of surprises with the roster especially, like certain characters that made it in, I had a funny feeling Rolento was going to make it, and I had a feeling that the dude deserved some comeback in some way, and it was going to happen eventually. Yes. Hugo was actually a really big surprise. And I think I've talked about this before. Hugo translated from 2D to 3D looks awesome. Like the gigantic hulking German man. I think he's German.
Yes.
It looks ridiculous. Like as far as like his character play style too, he performs a lot like Third Strike.
He does. He's got a lot of. I like him in 3D also because he's got a lot of sort of sweeping motions, like jumping fierce, and slaps and whatever. He really
lots of animation.
Takes good advantage of sort of he's more sort of a animated from the side kind of character. So I think he really pops in 3D. It's fun. But we wanted to get a little bit more grappling flavor in there as well, because grappling, it's interesting because throws are relatively weak in Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Yeah.
For some technical reasons, for some gameplay decisions.
That's interesting.
But grapplers are quite strong, and for sort of the same reasons. Initially, throws were, when they were sort of more at the Street Fighter 4 range, were really, really strong.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. I don't know what the proper term for this. I call it reverse Kara throwing, which is actually wrong. but it's basically where your hitbox is extended while you're on offense, or your throwable
through
box.
a normal or something
So
like
it's
that.
like, yeah, so I mean, a standard Kara throw would be, you know, Ken does his standing forward and moves his frames, or moves his
Kara forward,
moves his box forward where he's capable of throwing from a further distance now.
Okay.
Reverse Kara throwing is where the other character may stick out a move and essentially moves their own throwable box forward. So you're able to throw them from a greater distance. So it's not something you can offensively do, but it's something you can take advantage of defensively.
Yeah.
Like if you predict someone's going to stick a move out from a distance, you can grab them at a greater range than you could normally.
That's insane, actually, now that I think about it. Like, it can be like a huge, all of a sudden, how did I get grabbed from like...
Yeah, so you can see this quite pronouncedly in games where it has bigger throw distances, but it's present in basically every Street Fighter.
Gotcha.
Where you can throw a character that's sticking a move out, like you may not see the move, it may be in its first frame of animation, but it will push their movable or their throwable box forward, allowing you to throw them from a greater distance. So
Gotcha. So
obviously it's not something you can control in your opponent, so it's not a technique as such, but it's a factor.
When it comes to like the hit boxes and the throw boxes, are those different?
Usually yes.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. That's actually makes a lot more sense, especially since throw ranges seem like percentage-wise like they've been cut in half, I'd say, than Street Fighter 4. I was thinking it was more of a reason that like the throw game was good in Street Fighter 4 because of characters like Ken and even other guys that had excellent Kara throws where you can extend it even more. But at the same time, it's a nuisance to like newer players. Like I'm getting tossed around every single time. It's what I thought they would change is the techable time. But that doesn't seem to have increased.
That should be functional. I mean, the engine is actually brand new, so those values didn't carry directly over.
Yeah.
But should be functionally the same.
Interesting.
You know, there may be a fraction of it off. But the thing was with the chains initially, especially because not all the chains are true block strings.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. There's ways of mixing it up. You notice like some of your chains won't actually combo and things
That's true.
that.
That's true.
So what was happening is people were grabbing out of chains just by mashing grab, where if you were in block, you would stay in block because it would be auto block.
Yeah.
And if you were not in block, you could mash grab out of it, and you could grab people from sometimes crazy distances, and it just made the game feel wonky. But you'll actually see this. I know this happened at Wednesday Night Fights last week, and it was sort of the opposite of the commentator's curse because I was talking about it, and then it actually happened. Like
was it this exact same thing we're talking about?
It was
right
actually
now?
with a grappler. So part of what makes the grappler so strong is if you get like a crouching fierce from like a Rufus, Zangief can now
Super
grab from
long.
like this far away.
Yeah.
So you get really massive grab.
Or like
ranges.
grabbing Dalsim's like long limbs in the middle of like a Crouching Fierce or something like that.
Yeah, you get massive grabs on the grappler. So the people that do still have large throw ranges are very, very powerful as a result. But anyway, Hugo, this was all coming back to Hugo, was trying to get a little more of that grappling flavor in there because it's sort of one of the baselines of the game.
I mean, I think it's good to get some explanation on this stuff because the throw game does feel a lot different in Street Fighter Cross Tekken. A lot of the systems do not feel similar to Street Fighter 4, but in some ways they do.
Sure.
Where it's like the game is 90% new, 10% familiarity with some old
That's one thing
systems.
I say to people because I had the same experience. Because when you start with it, especially if you're a Street Fighter player like I am, you start with the Street Fighter characters and you start doing Street Fighter 4-ish things.
Yeah.
And if you start playing this game like Street Fighter 4, you're not going to have. I don't want to say you're not going to have a good time, but you won't have the right kind of fun, or you won't have as much fun as you would if you just sort of relax your brain a little bit and start thinking about this as Cross Tekken rather than as just a Street Fighter game.
Yeah.
So relax that in, and I started playing with the Tekken characters for exactly that reason, where I could feel a little bit more relaxed and think of the game in a different way.
Dude, every single time anyone asks about like, so like what does the game feel like? And I'm like, if you want to get a good feel for Street Fighter Cross Tekken, don't pick like Ken or Ryu. Even though they're solid, they do
they're
stuff.
good characters.
Dude, pick a Tekken character and see what they're pushing with the new system because like we said, Tekken characters have 2 to 3 times more movesets, and a ton more special or unique attacks, I think is what they call them in this game.
Yeah.
They have a ton more variety and they don't handle like any Street Fighter before. Like some play similar, like Paul, you can kind of call a Shoto.
Right, and the reason I played Paul in Tekken was because he was the most Street Fighter-ish character in actual Tekken games.
Pretty much.
But yeah.
And that translates through to this game as well, which is pretty funny. But at the same time, dudes like Yoshimitsu, there's never been a character like Yoshimitsu in a 2D game, in my opinion. And a lot of other guys feel that way. So that's what gets me jazzed about this game the most is the Tekken characters, and now they're new characters. Speaking of new characters, out of like the new guys and the Tekken guys, or even some of like the new people to the roster that weren't in Street Fighter 4, like Rolento and Poison and Hugo, which are a couple of your favorites so far?
You mentioned Yoshimitsu before. He's actually one of my very favorites.
Nice.
He's got a lot of uniqueness. Again, I like anytime discounting Seth, who's not one of my favorites from the Street Fighter 4 series.
Why not?
He's a super oddball, but generally I like the oddballs. People that have unusual move properties.
Yeah.
So Yoshi's sword spin will suck you in from a great distance. Actually functions almost totally differently than Seth's tendon engine.
Actually,
but,
wow. Now that I think about it.
and he has a teleport, and it's like, wait a minute.
He's the same dude.
No, I like Yoshi a lot, and who doesn't love the suicide move, right?
I'm still trying to find a way to use it. Like,
Poison gas.
Use it, yeah.
Yeah, it's much like Tekken. It's not a dominant strategy.
I'm not going to kill myself to kill you all the time.
But there are ways. All right, I'll see. Maybe we can talk. We'll hold that for later this week. Some fun things you can do with the suicide. But he's definitely one of my favorites on the Tekken side for sure. And you also mentioned Rolento, who I like a lot. He's a character I always wanted to play, but then in Alpha 3, he was sort of so brain dead, I wasn't able to enjoy him.
Yeah.
Like Alpha 2, he was just sort of not able to cut it like the rest of the characters.
In CVS 2, I felt like he was a little bit easier to use, but at the same time, I could never get used to him when I'm getting beasted by people that really know how to use Rolento, you know?
Yeah, I feel like Rolento had his day in the sun sort of before people learned what they were doing with CCs in Alpha 2.
Oh, yeah.
And then Alpha 3 was good, but for sort of dumb reasons that I didn't really like. So I was really happy to see him back here, and I think he sort of found his stride.
Nice.
With a nice range of mid-level, mid-range fireballs that are more hassle than like real pressure game.
Yeah.
And then really long-range pokes and some really effective setups. The baton twirls put you up into great position. They're really easy to tag cancel off of. You can combo into them yourself. You can follow them all up yourself.
It's nice how they balance that out with like the multi-hit scaling of this game. How he's got this sweet long baton twirl, but if you switch a guy in or chain after it, it's going to cost you because you're up to 19 hits at that point.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that these little touches. I see. Oh, I see what they did here with Rolento. That's why he's good in this area, but you've
called out. So there are some moves like the baton twirl, like Fei Long's. I can't remember what it's called. It's just a special. It's not a super or anything like that. Where he's
what's his name?
I don't know.
Not Fei Long. Fei Long
Fist
is
of Fury.
Yeah,
yes. Law.
Thank you.
Look at
so
me.
bad.
I know.
It's my fault. I didn't remember his name either.
Yeah. No. It's whatever that guy is.
Forrest.
They're Bruce Lee ripoff,
right?
Wait, we didn't say that. Yeah. So same thing. That move holds you in place for a great long period of time. Really is easy to tag off of and set up anything you want after it. But again, you'll notice that the moves that tend to do that are the moves that do also the most hits, which makes a certain kind of natural sense.
Yeah, it's like 9 hits.
Moves that hold you in place longer tend to do more hits, but moves that do that, that are easier to tag cancel off of, will do more hits, so you tend to get a little more scaling on that.
Yeah, it definitely applies to Street Fighter 4 style of less ends up being more in a lot of situations, but man, those flashy combos that take 15 seconds off the clock are really, really fun to look at.
Yeah, there's going to be some clock whoring in this game, I think, also.
So I think this gives us a good opportunity to go into some of the like the Twitter questions and the feed questions. If we wanted to maybe answer some gameplay related stuff, Seth is absolutely going to take the helm on this part because I had plenty of time doing that a little bit earlier. But I will maybe mend the game.
Let's have some fun in the actual game so people don't have to look at my face. Let's see.
We'll get some of them polygons rolling.
I don't know.
But yeah, do we have any good questions, Chris?
Yeah, we got a few. Keats from SRK wants to know.
Keats from where?
Yeah, exactly.
I've never heard of this guy.
Never heard of it. Next.
He's dying to know how the game handles the combining and separating of health when using cross assault.
Cross assault. So basically, each man stands alone. And I should say this while saying, since Wednesday Night Fights, I have not played the most recent version of the game, so everything is a little asterisk
Things
by
are
it.
very busy
please,
right now.
But it should be the case that each character's health is handled on their own. So you can have a character during a cross assault. If one of your characters gets knocked out, you've still lost the round. Yeah, dangerous technique. And you can also, even on a regular tag, both your characters can get blown up. So both characters are hittable. Much as you see during the sort of this 4-on-4 sort of scramble mode.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there it's a shared health bar. Here it's still your individual health bar, but you can get blown up on your own.
the stream was blowing up about this stage.
This stage, yeah.
Dude,
These cyber
I
mammoths.
first saw this and I was like, it Pandoraed its baby child just so it can become cyber mammoth.
I know. I want the mammoths. I'm sort of on the mammoths team. I want them to be able to eventually catch you, but they never do. Yeah, like if you play really bad. So many old friends here that I haven't seen in a while.
know.
Happy to cross
All in
assault.
one room, mashing on the heck out of a game.
We're getting the band back together. Yeah, that's probably the best simple follow-up.
Yeah.
But you can do resets off of that as well. So
Really, like that's one thing too. If we're not getting the next stream question, is like in a situation like this, if you were in my best idea, it's like crouching heavy kick for just the damage.
yeah, you get the knockdown.
Resets, like if you hit the ground in this game, they can roll out of it, so it kind of like eliminates the reset in a way.
Potentially.
Okay,
or
but
it sets up a
in-
different reset if you want to.
Oh, so you can either predict the roll.
Or tag. Yeah, it starts to
Okay.
get.
I'm starting to see a little bit of what's going on.
There's a lot of mind games. So that's pretty solid. And then you can. In the corner, of course, you can follow that up with anything.
Yeah, I think.
You also notice a lot more hit stun on a lot of the jumping moves. It's something you can just do like low forward.
Into what I
into
just
whatever,
did.
into super or that, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
And that should all connect. That's probably as easy as basic. Sorry,
I think we're good.
I'm
with
getting
the,
obsessed with this. Yeah,
I
so
think we're
we
good
got
with the next question.
It's all
some
good.
got?
additional stream questions.
There's a Ibuki-based question. How does she transition from a hard knockdown-based game like in Street Fighter 4 to a game like Street Fighter Cross Tekken?
You know, I'll say this honestly. I'm not an Ibuki player, so I don't know what the transition's going to be. But I'm not really a Juri player either. Juri was a character that was interesting to me in Street Fighter 4 that I didn't really stick with. I think she's transitioned really very well. So there's some characters that it's sort of hard to predict who's gonna be really interesting in this game and who's not. But one of the things that Ibuki has going for her, especially with the multiple spin kicks, any person that has a good multi-hitting special move is going to be somebody that you can use to set up tag combos and tricks. Ibuki's also really nice, especially we were just talking resets. Ibuki with the command dash and the back and forth and the jump canceling the normals and all that can be really extremely tricky versus an opponent. So I think you're actually going to get more chances. So you're going to get less Vortex, but Vortex wasn't really what Ibuki was all about in some of the earlier games anyway. So I don't know, I'm looking at you. I know. I'm acting as though you've asked the question, so I'm going to stare at you. But you're actually going to get more chances to do some of Ibuki's craziness, I think, in this game than you did traditionally in a Street Fighter 4. Not so much the Vortex, but you're going to get a lot of crazy mix-up opportunities with her.
Great.
I love Tekken chains, by the way.
I know.
They
feel good.
Stuff like this just makes me happy to see.
We got a Twitter question from earlier. What can you explain the perks and cons that Pandora might give you throughout the game? We explained it a little bit earlier today, but is there any maybe specific examples that you might give?
Well, Pandora's another one of those systems that I have to put the asterisk by because it's been changing. But for sure, I mean, the first and foremost one is you're going to die in a short matter of time. You're going to be KO'd if you don't win. So, and again, the most obvious perk there is infinite meter.
I think I might be able to, the question was about using Pandora and the risks and the cons.
Yes.
I think I might actually have a team that can demonstrate another applicable use than just throwing out Pandora mode with Kazuya's ground bounce.
Oh yeah, anybody that puts a ground bounce, wall bounce, whatever, and then you Pandora, and you should be able to complete that. Like low forward super, or just go straight into the super? In the corner, that would have worked.
In the corner, that would have worked. Gotcha. So, yeah, absolutely. If it was Ryu, Shinku Hadouken.
Yeah, and in fact, you can do that. Even if you were, say you're, Kazuya across the screen, teamed up with Ryu. If somebody's throwing fireballs at you from over there, Kazuya dies, Ryu comes in, Shinku Hadouken right through the fireball.
Since it's is it zero frame?
It was zero frame. I'm not positive it's still zero frame.
It's
but
very fast, though.
It's still fast.
Gotcha.
I think it's still zero frame. So stuff like that. And then there's also, just to add to that, that's one of my, what I call trick shot teams. If you've got a character like Ryu, who's got that kind of ability to surprise people with that really fast Shinku Hadouken after a Pandora, there are also gems that activate after Pandora activation.
Oh,
so, yeah. The immense power level 3 gem will activate with a 30% damage boost on Pandora activation.
So since there's one gem of an immense power gem that gives you the Pandora boost, is there more Pandora after gems, or is there just a single one? since one of them gives like 30% damage increase, is there more that you can actually increase more damage, or is there just a single post-Pandora gem?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Like, for example, I think one of the immense power gems gives you 30% post-activation. Are there any other gems that give you like post-activation power-wise?
For Pandora?
Yeah.
No, but there are other benefits you can get after Pandora activation.
I was
you can
thinking
get, like, speed boost as well.
Okay.
So you could do like an all Pandora-centric gem.
I was wondering if you can do all post-Pandora strength gems, you get like 75%.
Not the ones that are keyed to specifically Pandora, but I have had the case where after activating Pandora, I screwed up my combo and then activated one of my other gems. So you can still activate other. So if there's like, you know, hit 4 special moves, I may have hit my 4th special move during Pandora. That gem will activate as well. So I have my 30% power boost plus like another 10% power boost.
That makes more sense.
So you can start to get ridiculous boosts, but the window for those kind of opportunities is pretty small.
Yeah, you'd have to have some very specific setup.
But again, I think there will be such things. So there will probably be a combo, which rather than just going straight into Shinko Doken or something like that, you'll do like another special move. Maybe you'll juggle with a Hurricane Kick and then land the Shinku Hadoken.
Yeah.
Because maybe the 4th or the Hurricane Kick will activate one of your other power gems. So that's active. Then you
It's
hit
these little things.
Yes.
Like, that's what I like about this game. Every time I play, I see something new, and I'm like, it's these little things that this game is going to have.
There's little tricks. And again, like, if you don't know any of this or you don't want to spend time crafting like some tricky gem setup, it's not going to prevent you from winning.
Not at all.
And you're not going to lose just because somebody else has a little bit of a craftier gem setup.
And you're not going to specifically win because of it either.
But it's the marginal stuff. It's the stuff you can sort of grind out. You can give yourself little advantages here and there with a very clever gem setup.
And if you're taking advantage of all these little things, it adds up to a big sandwich.
Yes, I think
eat the sandwich.
To me, it's optimization and trying to find what works for you. I've talked about this before because I felt like, okay, this guy's the best guy on the test team. I'm going to copy his gems, and then I will start winning. And I found out that didn't work out for me. Like, I felt with certain characters, like I was naturally more defensive than he was.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing much better by playing defensive gems. Even though I respected his choice of gems as great for him, it didn't fit my personal play style.
And it just didn't end up working out.
Yeah, so even like the theory fighter of like, well, this is the best set of gems. It's like, well, this is the best set of gems if you play like this.
If you're playing Dalsum and Guile, that might not work out.
It's not just characters, but I think it's also like personal play
style. It's just, how you're eventually going about the game.
Yeah, so you see like different, there's like very different style of Dalsums.
That's true. That's true.
Dalsum's actually relatively.
I'm just assuming every single Guile I play is going to be at that end throwing sonic booms.
Exactly.
At me, so.
All right. There are some characters who are a little bit more uniform than others.
Yeah. We got any more?
Crazy rushdown Guile.
I'm sure we got some.
We have a ton.
Ogre's got some cool stuff, man.
Perfect Legend. He wants to know.
Never heard of him. Next.
Who, in your opinion, is not the best, but possibly the most solid characters when picking up Street Fighter Cross Tekken for the first time?
Yes. Please, everyone play Kuma so I can become #1 on the leaderboards. Yeah, maybe not Kuma, but I think Jin is actually going to be, I can't tell if he's the best, but I think he's a really solid character. And he's, of course, a Tekken character, but I think will play more Street Fighter-y than many of the Tekken characters, so it's a nice balance for people interested in both sides. For me, and this might just be my experience, I think there's a fairly good degree of tracking with sort of the core characters like your Kazuya, your Hayachi, or Nina, as like, I think they're really strong characters. Actually, I think Hayachi might be like very much top tier. But
really? Wow.
Yeah, he's got some really interesting stuff. But those guys are all like solid characters that have good basic mix-ups, good damage, solid bread and butter combos. So Ryu would be in there as well. I think a strong character. Maybe not. I actually think Ken might be better than Ryu ultimately, but Ryu might be better at the beginning level.
Is there like a solid reason, or you don't want to give it away that you think they might be better?
Ken?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to give that away, but
okay. Because it's my character, I'm trying to.
It
get
has to do with his
out.
Tatsus. Yeah, I mean, Ryu has the advantage on his Tatsu is it's got a really high juggle count. So Ryu's juggle count is he's able to put the Tatsu at the end of almost any combo. So even on like a basic raw tag. Like even if you just do like 1, 2, 3, 4 with Ken, or 1, 2, 3 launch with Ken, and tag in Ryu from in the corner, you can land crouching strong, crouching fierce Tatsu.
I noticed that, and if you tried uppercut, it doesn't work.
Yes, the uppercut does not have the same juggle properties as the Tatsu,
That's another.
Even if they're normal.
Once again, it's one of those other things that these things that stack up on other things, like the juggle properties. While they're sort of universal to a point, they're very character specific.
Yeah.
So there's rules that apply, but at the same time, some characters just, I'm going to avoid this with this move. And I almost have to say, okay, it's not as much universal as is. Each character has a unique juggle combo that is the best a lot of the time, and we don't even know how good it's going to get.
Yeah, the juggle count on moves is not it's not tied to things like, well, this is a special move, or this is a special move, this is an EX special move. It's not as simple as that. So the different moves will have different properties. And yeah, that's going to be. Have I told you about our Brady guide for this game?
Oh,
something you might want to invest in.
Yeah, I cannot wait for that thing.
It's it's one of those things that you gotta. There's as you mentioned, many exceptions. There are some broad rules. You can get a pretty good feeling for it, but then there's going to be exceptions.
If the guide can cover the exceptions, take my money.
It's 100 pages of guide and 500 pages of exceptions.
Okay, there we go. Sold. I think we're ready for another one.
All right.
Let's do it.
When you tag out a character with active gems, do the gems run out while they're tagged out?
Yes, and that was a decision that was made basically because it was just too good to, like, the gem length is already pretty juicy. Like, usually it takes, you're not activating your gems until 15, 20, 30 seconds into the match anyway. By the time they're active, most of them will last in the at least 10, usually 15 to 20 second range. So if you don't, by that point, usually someone's losing. Like around there's like 50 seconds left on the clock, 40 seconds left on the clock. That's usually the period in which somebody is the loser. So by the time you activate the gem has been active. Boy, it's hard for me to watch this because I'm just like, oh, you could. I gotta look away. I'm gonna look away from the screen.
I'm doing the basic stuff, actually,
so I don't keep repeating myself. Yeah. So by the time the gems are active, if you were able to sustain them while you tagged out, it was just really good. Like you were just never without gems. So that's again part of the gem meta strategy is when you activate them. Yes, you see that?
I love that kick so much. I'm not gonna lie. The Sparta kick that Kazuya has,
standing hard knockdown,
is so freaking awesome.
It feels good.
I fall in love with like animations of characters, and I'll find a way to make the move good, and I'm gonna find a way to make this move good. I think we're good for one more, or a few more.
Yeah, we have a bunch more. Everybody's asking about, do you know about any online features for the game?
Yeah, actually, so just in terms of features, I mean, they're going to get into that more as we get down there. So sorry for playing a little bit coy on this, but I will say that Japan has finally gotten the message in a very loud way, because anybody that's played online games in Japan, as somebody from the U.S. or Europe, will tell you like how wonderful it is. Everything works really well, even with not the best netcode. Things work great in Japan. Japan has gotten the message loud and clear that is not the case in the rest of the world. So they've gone, again, back to the drawing board on the online features. So I think some of the features that people have been asking for, without being specific, but just to tease, you're going to see in this game, as well as netcode that's been redone from the ground up. I do always say about the netcode, I never really believe it until it's out there in the wild. Yeah. But it was built from the ground up as a priority for this game.
Online warriors rejoice.
Yes, there you go. I think it's pretty sweet. Hopefully, once it's out and there are, a ton of people playing online, it will be
Things
just
are
as,
always
just as good
different.
as it's been in test.
Yeah, when it goes live.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of the games before, like Street Fighter 4, I think I had like maybe a day or two before it came out, and there was a pretty steady amount of people.
How was that, Max?
It was fun.
How were you able to get the game?
I don't know.
All right, moving on.
But yeah, it seems like the netcode at the same time, under pressure is interesting. How I don't really understand the basics of netcode and how it actually works, but it's weird how with a host-based connection, this is getting a bit more technical. With a host-based connection, how server load would affect things, and it's a study that I'd like to know more about, and we can maybe ask the canons or something.
Yeah, they might know more about it. Definitely, they're smarter about that sort of stuff than I am, but we've certainly inherited the seriousness with which they take it, and tried to honor those same kind of motivations. So again, yeah, the mysteries of Xbox Live and
Yeah.
PlayStation Network being what they are. I can't speak to all of it, but it's the best of any Capcom fighting game I've ever seen so far right now. So
That's very refreshing to hear.
When
I'm
you
watching you again. Sorry.
sorry. When you activate a gem and it runs out, is it possible for it to be reactivated?
Reactivated. So outside of, if I understand the question correctly, is it possible to reactivate the gem after it's been activated? Short answer is no, unless it's an assist gem. So assist gems, of course, are active the whole time. So in that sense, that's probably not what they mean. But yeah, like an auto block gem, if you have the bar for it, it'll work as long as you have the bar for it. Things like a speed boost gem or something like that will not be active after you've activated it. It's one and done.
All right. Have you played Poison at all?
I play Poison a bit. I played her a lot initially, but I haven't played her probably for the last 2 or 3 months, at least not seriously.
Well, at least maybe spectating-wise. What category would you put her in? Would she a rushdown character, a keep away?
Poison, yeah. I wouldn't call her a rushdown character for sure, but she has this sort of, her fireballs are odd. So she generates this sort of irritating pressure at mid-range. And she has some interesting setups off of her jab fireball especially. As well as aerial options that really will track you from anywhere across the screen. So she's someone that you can't really keep out. She has good answers to fireball kind of situations. So don't expect her to freeze her out across the screen because she can punish you from full screen with pretty much not a lot of effort.
Yeah, she seemed to have a pretty good uppercut.
Yes, her uppercut is also okay. It hits a little slow, I will say that. So
Okay.
don't expect
That's
to
the
like
trade-off of like her.
yeah,
Okay.
if you see somebody like planning to sweep you and you're like, I read that sweep, here comes it. You'll sometimes
Yeah.
that won't work out for you necessarily. So the uppercut's not that fast. It is basically effective anti-air, but you can't keep her out with fireballs. And she herself is able to generate really irritating pressure, both with her Rekka-Kens and mid-range fireballs. So yeah, sort of that mid-range pressure game. She's pretty effective in there.
Cool.
I actually undervalued her initially, and I've
actually
been shown the painful error of my
It
ways.
seems like, yeah, she might actually end up being pretty freaking good.
Yes.
I only say it because when I get uppercutted by that uppercut, I'm like, wow, that uppercut seems really good. But at the same time, uppercut priorities seem to have changed a lot from Street Fighter 4 as well.
Yeah. Uppercuts. Yeah.
Trade a lot of the time.
Yes.
Yeah, in Street Fighter 4, it was like, yeah, I uppercutted you, dude. Deal with it. And in this game, it's like, unless you burn the bar sometimes, it might not be.
That's okay. That's a worthwhile note. So we'll pause there let me run my mouth about that for a hot second. That's again an explicit choice, and that's a good thing to note. Just because one, fireballs are frankly less effective than they used to be in Street Fighter 4. Overall, just because so many of the Tekken cast has ways around them.
Right.
Even the Street Fighters have ways around them. So overall, it's less effective. So we wanted to make jumping more of a possibility.
Gotcha. Okay.
More of a viable possibility. Not only just as a method, as a vector of attack, but also because air-to-air combat is more interesting than it used to be in sort of traditional Street Fighter. So in Marvel, there's a lot of interesting angles to air-to-air combat. You fight actually probably the majority of the match in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Street Fighter, it's rare that you're both sort of jumping around at each other.
And in fact, it's frowned upon a lot later on in higher level play.
Yeah, generally, like, don't jump is pretty good advice for a Street
Yeah.
Fighter newbie. Just like, quit jumping. Like, just
Just
don't
stop
do it. Yeah.
Wow, I'm living more.
Yeah, it's surprising. In Cross Tekken, it gets sort of interesting. You can do all sorts of interesting things, not just because you don't just connect once out of the air. You connect once out of the air, and then you can scoop them up again off the ground and keep things going for a long time. So it creates a lot more possibilities, and we wanted to have those kind of possibilities going. So yeah, uppercuts not generally as good.
All right. How many returning characters got new moves from both realms? Do you
How
know
many
offhand?
characters got new moves? That's an interesting question. I don't know if I have a count offhand. What I will say, there's guys like Abel who sort of have a new move. It's sort of like his focus attack as a charge move. So there are new moves in there. I mean, apart from the cross arts, which are different and actually hit quite differently in many cases. So apart from the supers and things like that, a lot of the EX moves have somewhat different properties. But as far as just sort of overall basic specials, the objective wasn't to try and reinvent the wheel with a bunch of crazy new specials that people haven't seen before. It was to try and make those moves at least familiar. But the thing I'll say about the moves is that the way the moves actually function is now totally different. So what you thought you knew from before, you'll still know how to do the move and you'll know what it looks like, but it just does not work the same way that it used to work. It will have a totally different function in terms of gameplay. I don't just mean that it hits differently, it'll hit basically the same. But because the juggle system is so different, it really changes the way you can use a lot of these moves, as well as we talked about before, the multi-hit tag-in moves. Like Ken's Tatsu, I think, is actually, in a lot of ways, straight up better than Ryu's because it can keep you in place.
Because it keeps
like
the standing state and not the juggle state, which is more valuable.
Yeah, exactly. So you can keep that going. So there's just a lot of moves. Like that's why I mentioned Jury briefly before, and I wasn't a Jury player, but I became really interested in her in this game just because all the sort of oddball stuff that you wanted to do with Jury before, because she's sort of an unusual character in the Street Fighter 4 series. Now it all sort of works much more effortlessly. All her juggles just sort of work normally just because everything juggles in this game. So the dive kick is really interesting. It has a lot more potential follow-ups. You don't have to jump around with jumping strong all the time to set up all sorts of crazy juggles afterwards.
Your mid-screen juggle.
You can follow up the pinwheel. Her standing fierce, or actually crouching. Yeah, crouching fierce was actually problematic. That'll have some exceptions to it. Actually juggles less, just because she was so good. She's got a lot of really crazy good stuff in the corner. So Jury's a character that no new moves apart from her super, but the way everything functions is so different that it's like a brand new character, just in terms of the engine, not in terms of the moves.
All right. Question from Stream Chat. Who do you foresee being the weaker characters in this game?
We love all our children.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can understand that might be a little difficult to answer before the game is even out.
Yeah. You know, I mean, there are characters. I'd have to look at the. I don't know. Let's look at the character list screen.
Everybody's awesome.
As if on demand. Everyone's equally great. It's up to the individual player skill. Kuma, I think his jump is not my favorite. So Kuma right now, not winning me over too much.
Kuma is definitely hard to play.
Pac-Man, Mega Man, maybe not your top tier.
Why not?
Kuro and Toro, we'll see. And then there's other characters like Steve, who Steve might actually be really good, or he might be really bad.
I kind of feel the same way about Yoshimitsu. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel there's something
that's
here.
That's the glory of the game, and it's actually hard for me to read, honestly, to see sort of who is going to be really strong. Sagat is somebody I sort of thought early on would be really dominant. I don't think he's actually as dominant as I anticipated him to be early on. Just for sort of oddball reasons, like the sort of, and that's what I was saying to some. I can't remember. I think it was just in conversation last week down in LA with some guys. Like when I work on a Street Fighter game now, I feel like I have a really clear, not a really clear sense. I'm sometimes surprised, but generally, I'm pretty on the ball about like who's going to be good, who's not going to be as good, how the game is going to play out, how the basic systems are going to work. Marvel is a little crazier. You have your butt hanging in the wind a little bit more on that one because everyone's so potentially dominant that it's harder to predict. But again, I still feel like I have
best
some sense
description
for
of Marvel ever.
Yeah, because I've been through Tatsunoko, I've been through Marvel 3 and Ultimate Marvel as well now. So I have a much better sense of Marvel games now. So I have like a good sort of like finger in the wind for like how this is going to go.
Yeah.
And I've been pretty fortunate there. Cross Tekken, oddly, I really feel like I don't have a good sense of like who are the good characters. Like there's a lot of potential for people to be good that I don't think. Bison, who I actually play, I don't think is that great right now. But yeah, charge characters in general I think are a little more of a struggle for the system. So you saw that also in Street Fighter 4. I think it was initially designed more around some of the non-charge characters, and I think people noticed that with the focus cancel mechanic. Didn't benefit the charge characters as much. They had to work a lot harder on it. So I think here and then of course Super Street Fighter 4, one of my babies was what I call the revenge of the charge characters. So they all came back in a big way. That was my apology to the charge characters.
I see that stuff with the new charge mechanic as well. Like guys like Guile can get free EX Sonic Booms.
Which is a big deal.
That's a big deal, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting as well, the way a lot of those charge cancels work. And I believe, did you point this out in your video about the power of starting with an EX move to get a free super? Like,
I think it might have been in one video. I was about to use a couple of characters, but I think the level up guys might have shown that too, where
it's basically, yeah, like a way you can charge from, from like a Hadoken to go to EX Hadoken. But if you start with an EX and you're willing to burn the bar, you'll go to the super level. You'll go to a super much faster.
It skips the whole beginning part and goes right to the EX part. It's hard to describe until you actually try it. But yeah, it cuts it in half for the cost of 1 bar. So you get a 1 bar, 2 bar.
Yeah.
For free.
So your 2 bar is the super, but you're doing an EX. So if you've got something that's holding them in place long enough.
Yeah.
You also get the counter hit by canceling that out of the dash right away.
An immediate free counter hit. Wow, I just realized. But you lose it if you throw any other attack. But
that's true. So it's be careful. That should be. Oh, you
My
got
bad.
it right out there. It's fine.
I'm still searching for the characters that have crumple state.
Yes.
Normals.
That's very helpful.
Does everyone have that?
On the counter hit?
Yeah.
It depends. So the counter hit has different properties. Counter hit has funny properties for some people. So sometimes you'll get the crumple, but it's not for everybody.
Interesting. Very interesting.
There you go. There's the counter hit on
Yeah.
from the EX. So there's all sorts of weird setups you could do with that. So again, like not life and death kind of stuff, but again, interesting setups. There's like, weird stuff you can do. And just for the frames, like for Shinko Hadoken, just as an easy reference point. So to charge from beginning the fireball motion, you hit the button and hold it. From that point to EX is 51 frames. On the 51st frame, when you release it, it's EX Fireball. And from the 51st frame, if you hold it down from there to the 100th frame, then it becomes the Super. And so basically by starting at EX, you're starting at the 51st frame. So it's 49 frames from beginning the motion to free Super.
Counting 60 frames a sec? Counting at 60 frames a sec?
Just raw frame total. So it's not even per
okay.
second. It's just,
Okay.
It's 50 frames
I always get
of
confused
animation.
with that stuff of the animation.
Don't worry
per
about it.
second thing.
Yeah, 60 frames a second is what the other gamers care about. The game looks fluid. Our frames, we don't care how many are per second. It's just that's how many moves.
I was going to show off one of those setups with like an EX move and another EX move. I think I found it with Sagat and Ryu because Ryu's EX Shinsho Ryuken, holding them there for the longest time.
Exactly.
I'll give it a shot while we're taking more questions.
Sure.
FYI, the reason the commotion going on Team Tekken, Horsehead was just placed on Eris.
Horseplace is what?
Horsehead was just placed on Eris.
Oh no.
You hate to see this kind of thing happen.
I hate it. No, man, I don't even.
Why
so
wasn't
here's my
he out
question
here?
to Horsehead, because Horsehead Eris. So I guess somebody already knows the answer to this, but does the beard go inside the horsehead? Or does it come out of the horse head? Either way, it's obscene.
If it's in the horse head, it's covering his whole face.
That's what I'm imagining, like tucking up the beard. All right, for his second penalty.
I don't know. We can ask him right now. Does the beard go inside the horse head, or?
No, it sticks out the bottom.
Oh, boo. Next time, tuck up the beard.
It's not good.
All right.
All right.
I'm very angry right now.
All right.
Couple more. Is there a limit to how many juggles you can get during the game, and is there hit stun decay like in Marvel?
I missed the second part of the question.
Is there a hit stun decay like in Marvel?
So hit stun, no. There's damage scaling, not hit stun, and there's no juggle limit.
All right.
In fact, yeah, there's some. Well, I don't know. There might be a juggle limit, but it's like, I don't know, 99, something like that. It's not effectively not a juggle limit. So yeah.
Awesome. And
If you've got infinite meter to play around with in training mode, you'll be able to do some. Yeah, leave it on infinite, not refill, and you'll be able to keep things going. I remember I had some ridiculous combo. I have no idea if it still works.
Yeah,
I think you got it. In the corner, that would.
Yeah, right. Everything works in the corner.
Yeah, I had some ridiculous Shinsho Yuken tag canceled into Ken's regular air Tatsu, and just had that going like Shinsho Yuken Tatsu, Shinsho Yuken air Tatsu.
Nice.
Just going over and over again like that. And
I kind of like that. You're stuck and you can't do anything. Yeah. It costs me a lot of money,
and then you can reset it partway through by like going to the other side and crossing them up.
I'm definitely going to have to start messing with the reset mechanic. Because I'm like,
Yes.
resets are gone. Wait a minute now.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about things.
They're still in there, especially if you reset people before they're on the ground. So put them in the air and try and,
Okay.
I know.
It's Theory Fighter in my brain.
I'm trying to tease. Anyway.
Are the high-low unblockables still possible in this build? And if not, how are they prevented?
How are they prevented?
Yes.
Yeah, so no, not right now. And the problem there was with tag canceling, it just made it too easy. Like, it was just really easy to do. Like, I mean, you didn't even have to be clever. You just, like, find a move that hits high and hits more than once. I'm thinking here of, like, Horang or something like that. Tag cancel it, and then throw out, like, some low shorts, and bang, unblockable. And it was like, that's pretty good for a 1-bar unblockable into giant combo. So
Yeah, it was free damage.
yeah, it was
way back in the day.
and it wasn't interesting. Like, you know, unblockables usually are interesting because they're difficult to set up, or I think you'll always be out of range. Can you hit high
Really?
enough in the corner? For low strong into
Oh,
Magic
really?
Fierce. Jump short will
Interesting.
work. Or I think everything else pushes you back too far.
Wow. Okay.
Sorry.
Wow. If I was I'm not deep enough
Nope.
anymore. Interesting.
Yeah, I think, well, right, obviously if you
Crossover.
cross up, yeah, it'll work. But I think if you're just trying to keep them in the corner,
That's
jumping will always whiff.
little stuff. The
There you go.
little stuff.
I'm here to help. You're not in the show, so I can give you some free tips.
So I think we got a lot of hands-on time. I was able to demonstrate some stuff Seth was talking about, this theory fighting and all the layers on layers that are Street Fighter Cross Tekken. I'm still wrapping my head around it, and I've had a little bit of time with the game, so I'm pretty anxious to actually play a lot more now. But thank you very much, Seth, for
Dude.
showing up. I know you guys have a hectic schedule, and with this game coming out pretty soon and us running Cross Assault, there's a lot going on in the Capcom offices, it seems.
I think that was it. So straight from the horse's mouth.
Straight from the horse head's mouth.
Or from the horse's ass. We'll see. All right. Good luck, guys.
Thank you guys very much. We'll
Go
see you
Team
next
Street
time.
Fighter.